Alright, so what I'm hoping to do here is to give you guys sort of a guide on like my thought process when I play the game. I'm going to be showing you the perspective of what I see, and I'm going to be interlacing it with the perspective of what everybody can see or what he can see. We're in cross bonds on Arena, which is the small map with the bridge between our bases, and he's playing Terran. The build I go for literally every game, I don't think I've deviated from this once today, is a hatchery first at 17 supply, making another drone to go back to 17 supply, and then making a gas and a spawning pool. This maxes me out at the 16 out of 16 workers on my main base before I build any other structures, so I'm always mining at perfect efficiency. As you can see, this round I went hatch and then pool before gas. Main difference being if I take that gas first, I can research ling speed faster, but it's a magnitude of mere seconds, and maybe higher level play it would make a difference, but here it really doesn't. So at the start of the game here, I've sent my overlords directly towards his base. The first overlord that spawned with me is actually in his main base at this point, and I've seen that he's made only a barracks, not even another supply depot at the front of his base. And my first thought is, where's his money? Either he's terrible and doesn't know what he's doing, he's not spending any money, or he's building another command center on the lower ground. So my second overlord, I've immediately started pathing that to the second base to see if he's taken a second command center. And the way that Terran works is they can only make units out of their barracks, and he only has one barracks, and it doesn't even have a reactor. So I know for at least a short period of time he's going to have no units whatsoever. All of his money has gone into this second base. My overlords have scouted it, obviously, but the second overlord was all I really needed to send. I messed up a little by sending the first overlord in there. So the first overlord was going to die regardless because of the marine spawning, but because I sent it so close to my second overlord, he saw that too, and he's going to kill that. So that was a bit of a waste by me. I'm having to blow another 100 minerals on each overlord that I lost. But at this point in the game, I've started Zergling speed. That's going to let me get to him really quickly. My second base has come up, and I have 2 queens, and I've decided to use all of my larvae on Zerglings to stop this second base from going down as quickly. And this isn't really game-ending damage. I'm not trying to win or anything right here. These small number of Zerglings are really just to stop that base from going down. I get lucky by going up the ramp here and seeing that he's actually building 2 barracks behind this. So I know for a fact that he's not using much gas. I don't have to worry about medevac drops. And I've reacted here by building a baneling nest. Now the baneling nest has 2 purposes. One, if he were going for drops, which I didn't know until I'd already placed it, I would have banelings to help defend the drops. And 2, the only thing that's going to get me through the wall at that top of the ramp is banelings. Zerglings are never going to be able to break through there, so if I actually do decide to end the game, I'm going to need those banelings. Now during this time, I've canceled that second base of his. There's 2 ways you can take advantage of this. I could continue pressing into him and try to break that ramp, but I don't have any way of doing that without banelings. Or 2, I could get my own second base faster than him. That's doubling his economy. You can see at this point my supply is already 10 ahead. That's 25%. That's pretty massive at this point of the game. So I've fully saturated my second base. I have 2 mining bases completely, and he only has 1. He still has yet to break down this ramp. So I've decided to make the transition here into offense. I could make a third base and get even more far ahead and just inevitably crush this guy. Or I could start to use that baneling nest I've made, start to use all the extra larvae I have, and try to push up the ramp. Now his only options are to break out of his base right here and try to catch up economically, or to go for an attack. So as you can see, he pooled some marines and marauders at the top of the ramp, waited until he had enough to kill the Zerglings, scanned to see how many there were, and then walked down the ramp to kill them. And in his mind he's thinking, great, I've pushed him out, I can take my second base, I can try to catch back up, because he's assuming that I've obviously taken some bases, which I have. Unfortunately for him, I chose the aggressive route here. So I run my lings back up the ramp to see him taking that second base, to make sure it's still there. And I've started to morph a ton of banelings in my base. I know he still can't be dropping me. I know he still doesn't have the resources to be funding a medevac, some mines, especially after seeing all the marines he has at his natural ramp. There's no way he could be attacking me at this point. So I'm able to send all of my Zerglings and Banelings across the map here without any fear of being attacked in my own base, and that's what I do. I start to pool up all my units. Mind you, I'm still on a 2 base economy, and he's still on a 1 base economy. And I'm taking even more advantage of that by throwing down a third base and starting some upgrades, Zergling speed, and +1 attack and defense for my Lings and Banes. And I've pooled up a lot of units here, enough at least to break the ramp that I saw earlier, and I send them up to cancel the second base once again. Luckily for me, he got greedy, made a bunch of workers instead of army units to defend this base, and he loses it once again. Noticing the ramp is pretty open here, I send my units up to pick off these SCVs that were mining at that second base, but I don't have enough remaining Lings here to try and do some serious damage. So I send them in this mineral line here just to do some poking and prodding, and his SCVs get pulled to kill them, which is exactly what I want. Because anytime SCVs have to trade with Lings, I'm getting a cost-efficient trade here. I make a ton more Lings, a nice swell of them to send over to cancel that base, make sure he has to lift it, and he does. And I make exactly 6 Banelings here. And that's because it takes exactly 6 Banelings, I think it's actually exactly 5 Banelings, to break a supply depot. So I run the Lings up there, and luckily he doesn't actually have the full wall up. He has that right supply depot down. But he raises it right as my Banes get there, and I manage to break through with the 6 Banes, completely destroying both of the supply depots at the top of the ramp, and knowing full well that he would have to invest another 200 minerals into supply depots just to wall off his ramp, and has no way to rebuild his army. I send a ton more Lings over, start morphing another 6 Banelings right in his face. He sends his army down to try and catch them while they're morphing, but that just leaves his front entrance open for Lings, and he realizes that and backs up. And I still try to get that second base down. I've started to get some drones at my third base. I've got double the economy of him. I've got tons of larvae. Send him up the ramp. And unfortunately he has rebuilt those supply depots, but I do have the 6 Banelings, so I use those 6 Banelings to break it down and run my Lings in. And that's how I punished his greed for trying to catch up. If I had decided not to be so aggressive there, there's always the off chance I mess up later in the game. And what I was luckily able to see when I ran up that ramp the second time, when I get my Zerglings into his base, is right before they start running to the SCVs to attack the mineral line, the very first wave of Zerglings that get up the ramp, I notice he's building a third command center. So he's taking a third base to try and catch up economically, knowing that I must be miles ahead, and I'm spending all this money on Zerglings. His idea, or his thought process is, I've got to play catch-up with this guy. But unfortunately for him, I didn't take that route. I didn't take the greedy route. I didn't take the safe route. I built all of the units that I could and just ran into his base. Now what he could have done here is turtled up a lot better. He could have made a bunker instead of these supply depots. He could have made a tank out of that factory he made because he had a tech lab. But he wasted far too much time mind-gaming himself without any information. And if you're ever in a situation where you don't know what's outside your base, if you just honestly can't even, like there's no way for you to understand what I'm doing across the map or your opponent is trying to do, you should always play safe. So in this regard, he should have definitely not made the command center, should have made some defending units and waited until he could take that ramp before trying to be greedy with his economy. And I don't know if this is weird or whatnot, but this was actually kind of fun to make, so if you guys actually care to learn more about how I think or play, or want me to analyze more of my own replays or games, just let me know and I'll do that.